Can I go?
Anytime.
Okay. Douglas Chief Stainsworth was actually sentenced to the death penalty when he was 20 years old because he murdered someone. However, this was also 34 years ago, and he's still alive today. What a lot of Californians don't know is that there are so many people like Chief Stainsworth who are sentenced to death but aren't actually executed for so many years. People are constantly put on the death penalty or death row, sentenced it, but there's no action going on. But what we do know as Californians is that we're constantly in debt right now, and we're probably at the lowest or the highest in debt right now. So another factor that people don't know is that the death penalty wastes so much money, but we don't think about that because we only think about the moral issues regarding the death penalty. So many people believe that the death penalty is right because if you murdered someone or if you committed a crime so big, then definitely you should be executed because you get eye for an eye and you should get the punishment that you deserve. However, we actually need to be counting the cost of whether this is benefiting our state as a whole. Should we keep the moral issue or should we save our state as a whole right now? Today in my speech, I'm going to be talking about the death penalty and the economics regarding it, along with Proposition 34. First, I'll be talking about why the death penalty costs so much. Second, I'll be talking about the trials, why that's so costly and long. And last, I'll be talking about Proposition 34 and what economic changes can actually happen with Proposition 34. So let's get started. First off, the death penalty. People don't know, but when you get the death penalty, they automatically assume that people are going to be executed right away. But it's actually a really, really long process. And according to Professor Mitchell, we're actually using $4 billion. We have used $4 billion ever since 1978 because of the death penalty. But only 13, or currently right now, 14 people have been executed from the 714 that we have counted from last year that are on death row right now. We also have included that 84 people have died for natural causes. If you think about it, more people on the death penalty that have been sentenced to the death penalty have died because of natural causes rather than what they were actually sentenced for. People are just constantly put onto the death penalty, but there's no action regarding it. So why is this taking a long time? Why are we spending so much money on something that we're not even using? That actually comes in play with the trials. The trials there's actually two parts to the trials. First, there's deciding whether you are guilty or innocent. And the second part is the actual sentencing of the punishment that you'll be receiving. So the first part actually takes up most of the time. And trials can actually last for decades and decades of time. So no one can really assure how long it's going to take. But we constantly use money to pay for these attorneys or these lawyers because prisoners don't have enough money or are too overwhelmed to pay for these things that they need to pay for the death penalty or the trials that they're issuing. And states must have the hearings or the trials in order to properly set someone the death sentence or a penalty, whatever is going on. And these people are constantly put on the death sentence and constantly given the death sentence, but nothing actually happens. And because of that, we're constantly using so much money. The death penalty trials are actually 5 times longer and use up that much more money compared to the original trials that we have for other regular punishments that you would see. So what does Proposition 34 have to do along with the death penalty, and why are the trials so long? And regarding the trials, well, Proposition 34 actually states that there will be no more death penalty, and instead there will be life sentencing. So what does life sentencing do? People would be in prisons for the rest of their lives, obviously, but not only that, but these people will be forced to work inside the prisons. When they work in prisons, they're not just going to be working and not receiving pay, but they'll also be receiving wages, which goes to help them from their fines or anything that is used against their name, such as going to the families that are hurting or have been affected by this murder or whatever else is going on to them. So these people will work and we'll be paying. We will be continuously paying taxes, but we won't be paying for the unnecessary things, such as the decade-long hearings that are constantly going on that were supposed to be made to put these people to death. Instead, we'll be paying taxes for more economically better issues. These people will be given wages and they'll use it to work, and instead of wasting money on the prisons itself for us, they'll be keeping it. Instead of having workers cleaning and keeping the prison safe or keeping the prison working and utilized for everybody, we'll be doing it. We'll be instead using it. Not only that, we'll also because there's no possibility of parole. There's going to be no more possibility of parole. We're going to be people will constantly be working, and we won't be using the money on that as well. So today I talked about why the death penalty costs so much, what's going on with it. Second, I talked about the trials and why that's such a long process. And lastly, I talked about Proposition 34 and what the economic issues are surrounding it. And if you look at my visual aid, along with Chief Steinford, we won't have just 13 people out of 723 people executed, which is such a small number. We can turn it off. And instead, we'll have people who are constantly living in these prisons and working to help better the prisons and help us with our economy. So I hope whatever I taught you today, will help you when you go vote, and you'll be able to make a better or a more non-biased vote for when you do vote, and it won't be just about morals, but you'll also know the economic issues regarding it. Thank you.